Hello! My name is Gwen.
My name is Tessa.
And we are teaching abroad. So, I am from Port Huron, Michigan, but I went to Saginaw Valley State University, and I just graduated in May of 2020. So, super exciting. And
yes, I am originally from a small town called Danforth, Illinois, and I also went to SDSU for my bachelor's degree, which was focusing in management, and I also just graduated just this past May of 2020. So super exciting!
And my degree is in international studies and a minor in business.
Yes, and as Glenn said, we are currently teaching abroad. We're teaching English in South Korea. Yes, specifically the city of Daegu. So just a couple hours south of Seoul.
Yes. And in Daegu, there are many things different in terms of education, like with the pandemic going on and everything. So right now, I'm currently teaching at a academy. It's called a hagwon in Korean, but it's like an after school. So Koreans do like cram school, which is crazy. They usually go for like a couple hours after their regular school days, so they're super exhausted, which is fun. But I usually teach about 6 classes a day, Monday through Friday, from like 12 p.m. until 8 p.m. And then usually the age group is like elementary schoolers roughly, and then I have a couple like advanced classes of like 6th or 7th graders.
Yes, and I also teach at a small private school, and the age group I focus on is 5-year-olds who are just starting their English language skills, so very, very young. And then I also do a couple classes with 4th and 5th graders, and then I also tutor a 9-year-old. So a lot of different age groups there. So yeah, throughout this video, we're just gonna tell you a little bit about our experience with teaching, and then our experience with the pandemic and being abroad during it.
Very different.
Yes.
So, hope you enjoy. Alright, so right now we're going to talk about why we're in Korea, because I'm sure people are wondering that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about like the differences being like in the midst of a pandemic and living abroad, and what that's like as well. So for me, I am in Korea because I came here for school as like an exchange student through SVSU before. So literally ever since I left, I wanted to come back. So that's sort of the reason why I was like, oh, teaching English would be like a perfect kind of like segue to coming back. So how I did that was I just like searched it online and then went through a recruiter who set me up with a job. So it was pretty easy, I think, but I'll let Tessa tell you why she's here. But the quarantine stuff and like all the pandemic nonsense is insane. So buckle up, buckle your seatbelts, kids, because it's a ride.
Yes, I also went through a recruiter to get here, and kind of the reason I'm here is I graduated and I had no idea what I wanted to do still. And the one thing I did know is I just have this passion for traveling. I just want to go everywhere. And so as I was looking for jobs, I saw this random one to relocate to South Korea, and I said, why not? And now I'm here. So yeah, a little different. But yeah, that is why I'm here. I just wanted to travel and go experience some new things.
Yes, definitely. I think the quarantine experience was the worst thing I've ever.
Yeah, it was rough.
I can agree. It was the worst part of this whole thing so far, but. So basically, my experience, it was, I arrived at Incheon Airport in Seoul, and then there is like this huge immigration process of like, they basically don't even want to let you in the country because they're suspicious
so much
of everyone. So like, we don't have phone numbers, obviously, we don't have Korean phone numbers, so like, it was so weird because when I went, they were like, oh, well, at least write down your friend's phone number. I was like,
Yeah, they have to call someone and verify where you're going to be quarantining at.
So I literally had to call my boss, who I've never talked to before, because like I was set up with a recruiter who set me up with a job. So I literally wrote down my boss's like number, and she had to verify for me at like 5 a.m. It was so weird, like the time that I arrived in Seoul. So great first impression, but basically after you go through the whole process, they make you download an app before you even get to Korea, like on your phone, and then there's like 5 or 6 checkpoints where they like make sure they take your phone and they make sure that you like actually downloaded it
and all the information is correct.
Right? They help you fill out everything, and like you have to input where you'll be staying, like the address, and it tracks your location. And like if you're caught breaking quarantine or like leaving your hotel or wherever you quarantine at, like you will literally get a bracelet. Like that's step 2. Like they'll give you like basically a house arrest thing of like it'll track like where you are, and you'll actually have to wear it on your body, because people have been known to like leave their phone in their hotel room or whatever and like just leave. But yeah, it was insane. 2 weeks is a long time. I realized like when you're out and you're doing stuff and you're able to just walk around, like it doesn't feel like that long, but you're literally just
you can't go anywhere, nothing.
I lost
it was
my mind.
long time.
How was your like quarantine part?
No, so in order to even get to my quarantine, I got off the airplane, and then I had to wait for like a half hour to get on a bus, and then that would drive an hour to get me to a train station, and then I had to wait for a half hour to get on the train, and then the train would be about 2 hours to get to Daegu, where we currently are, and then they would take us from the train station to a COVID testing center where we'd get tested, and then I had to get a taxi to then get to my apartment, and I had to do all of this with like 3 huge luggage, like big luggage things. So
right off the plane.
After like being on a plane for like a day. So yeah, it was rough. And then going and just sitting for 2 weeks, I had like not much food either. So yeah, no, very happy once that was done to get out and explore. So just be prepared if you're gonna be quarantining. Stock up on food. That's all I can say.
Yes. Yo, like literally no one's allowed in your room, obviously, because you're quarantined, you're isolated, and you have to be that way for 2 weeks. So it was literally like by the end, because I was like, oh, no problem, I can watch Netflix, right? Like I can just chill, like it'll be so relaxing.
No.
Oh my god, I was annoying myself, you guys. Like I was annoyed by me at the end of the 2 weeks. I was like, wow, I'm really annoying. Like it was so weird, and I feel like after, because you have to get tested twice too,
like a couple days.
The very first day,
and then a couple days before you leave quarantine.
Because like they basically, before they let you out, they make sure you really don't have it and then let you out. So at the quarantine center though, or the like testing facility though, they gave me like a bag of like a bunch of masks, like
hand sanitizer. No, it kind of just
they
like
get you hooked up.
Yeah, to sum that up, they're like really strict about trying to contain COVID. So they are contact tracing everywhere, every restaurant, every like anything. You have to write down like who you are, where you live, your number, in case there is an outbreak. They can contact anyone who is like in that area. So yeah.
Even if you don't have like a phone number or anything, like I still don't have a data plan, and I get messages like 10 times a day saying like, if you visited this random location, like even if you don't have symptoms, go get tested, because someone like a patient coronavirus case like came up. So it's like they're making sure people know and like are getting tested. So it's very different from the US of people like not wearing masks too sometimes.
Like you will not see one person without a mask walking around. Like it just won't happen.
Like
we
can try. Like people stare at you. I feel like if you don't wear it, like it's like
no, that's not a thing.
No.
And then it even gets like to be so serious as I was supposed to go up to Seoul to train for teaching at my school, and they totally canceled all of our training because of the rise in COVID cases up in Seoul. So I went in blind to teaching 5-year-olds, no training, nothing, because they didn't want to send up their teachers to an area that had rising COVID cases.
I'm literally cringing at that. It's crazy. But it's no joke. Like,
yeah, and
not even just the quarantine, but like like she said, the contact tracing and everything is just very serious.
And then specifically at like my school, all the kids, teachers, everyone has to wear masks all the time, and they also don't allow any outsiders or parents into the school. So there's like a no outsider like policy. No one can come in other than the students and the teachers. So that's a pretty big one for our school.
Yeah, ours, they have like at the academy, they have like hand sanitizer bottles literally every corner of everywhere. Like, you can just look and you'll see one.
Yeah,
but
as soon as students or teachers enter, we right away take their temp and give them hand sanitizer at the door. Yeah.
Yep, temperature check for sure. And the in the classrooms too, if somebody even like, because they're kids, obviously they're gonna want to like pick their nose, like all the gross things that kids do. But like, there will be kids like that are trying to like pull down their mask and just like sit there with it, and I literally have to say like for example, I have to be like, Max, why do I see your entire nose right now? Like, teacher should not see your nose. Like, he's like, oh, like, it's very, very safe, like very serious. We're like, no, wear your mask properly so that nobody gets sick. It's very like, like Asian culture is very collectivist too, so it's like, hey, I need to wear my mask for everybody else, right?
It's not for you, it's for everyone else. That's their big mentality here.
And I feel like they even though they're young, they get that so well. So it's helpful because you're like, you don't have to explain why you have to wear a mask. You just have to be like, it's safe for everybody, and like they just like do it.
Yeah, they just do it.
So, but the school policies are very like strict about this. I feel like, yeah.
Okay, so for this part, we're gonna focus more on the Korean like work culture, and then also like part of their education culture. And so it kind of started off. I previously stated that because of the pandemic, I was not able to go to Seoul to get any training for teaching at my work, and because of that, I went in blind to teaching, and all of the other teachers in the school did as well. Now I'm at a brand new school, so it just opened as soon as like I came to Korea, and so none of the teachers, none of the Korean co-teachers or the management has any experience on doing anything with the school, and so we are legit learning as we go, and so that's been quite tough. We've been working insane amount of hours. We normally work 8:30 a.m. to about 7 p.m. and then I also have to work quite a few Saturdays as well, doing seminars and doing health checks. It's crazy. The culture, they expect you to just work and work. So it's definitely not babysitting. So yeah, it's kind of my experience. It's just, we're kind of just being thrown to the wolves, if you want to say it. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
There is definitely a huge, like, I'm sure you guys know the statistic because I sure don't right now. However, in Asia, there's like a huge, like specifically Korea and Japan, I think there's a huge like high suicide rate for like workaholism, like people just getting so stressed and being overworked.
It's just expected. They expect you to just be able to just work, and like that's your whole life. They don't think you should have any kind of personal life, no sick days, nothing. Yep. It's just work.
Yeah. So it's definitely a huge jump coming from, especially like us, we just graduated, like we're fresh COVID
Yeah, my
grads.
first job.
So it's like we literally just graduated and we're jumping into not only like a career job, but I guess career job, first attempt at career job, into a different culture as well. So it's like, wow, like it's not only very stressful, it's like,
especially the private schools that we're at, there's like 0 vacations, 0 holidays. There's like the longest break you get is will maybe be like during Christmas. We get like 3 days off, like 0 breaks. So
yeah, and literally, because me too, like I don't work as much as Tessa for sure. Like her story is insane. But like I work every Monday to Friday from 12 to 8, and then there's like maybe every month we'll have to work like one Saturday for like a training day or something like that. But even 8 p.m. I feel like is kind of late to like be working till, because I'm like, wow, like I was not expecting that, and we're literally teaching kids until that time. So like me being 22 years old and being like stressed about like leaving at 8 p.m. Like imagine kids that we're teaching until that time.
And we don't get breaks during that time either. I have 0 breaks at all, not even a 5-minute break. The only break I get is a 40-minute lunch break from 12:30 to 1:10, but the rest of the time from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. I am working non-stop. So yeah, definitely a big shock.
Yes. I also like I start at 12, but then there's like a prep time and then like a lunch time. But yeah, other than that, as soon as like the day starts, like when kids start coming, there's like 5-minute like little blips in between classes, and then you're just like teaching the whole time. So it's definitely a big switch. It's really fun. Like honestly, the kids are awesome. Like the kids are really fun and funny, and they all have like their own little personalities for sure.
Definitely.
But I also feel like it's hard being a foreigner in a homogenous country like Korea, because they're not as open to like different people. So I feel like it's a shift for them as much as it is for us. So like we're obviously we're not Korean, so we are trying to teach them, and they're just like, a lot of them are not willing to listen, honestly. Like a lot of them just are like, okay, why do I have to listen to you? Of course it's like a traditional like teacher-student relationship, but I feel like there's also another hidden dynamic
Of being the foreigner.
of being like an outsider in Korea, of them being like, okay, like why is this
A
person
lot
in front
of
of
the
me?
kids, especially in Daegu, there's not that many foreigners in like the smaller towns. And so I remember the first couple weeks, I would like leave like my work area that I was like from prepping, and all like the little kids would stare at me, and I legit got called Elsa like 10 times. Like they thought I was Elsa, like because they had never seen someone like me before. Like I was like legit, I'm Elsa to them. So yeah, it's very different for them. So it takes a lot of getting used to for students and teachers. Yeah.
It's so funny that you said that. 'Cause, like, literally they'll always like talk about like your nose too. Like they'll be like, oh, you have like an Elsa nose. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, okay.
And my blue eyes, they're always like, teacher has blue eyes. So yeah.
I can literally imagine that. Like they would be so obsessed. But
And as much as they expect teachers to work a lot, they expect students to have this insane amount of education. Like insane. Oh my goodness.
Our kids literally have, like, we work at different schools, but we talked about it before. Our kids literally have daily word tests. Like these are like 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Like they have lists of like 10 to 20 words that they have to go home and memorize after they leave our academy. And it's literally like, she said it's a private school, so like they go to regular school first, they come to us for like 40 minutes to 2 hours, like periods of time, and then they go home and they have homework from us and their school. So like there's a kid that's in one of my classes, and I guarantee he's not the only one like this. He literally has Taekwondo Academy, he has piano lessons, he has like a bunch of other like private tutoring things that like come to his house after school. And I asked him, I said, hey, like I was like, Eddie, what time do you go to bed? Because he told me, we were reading this thing, and it was like, oh, I wake up at 6 a.m. And I said, oh, 6 a.m., that's so early, right? And he goes, teacher, that's not early. I wake up at 5 a.m. So I asked him, like, what time do you go to bed? And he said, sometimes 1. I was like,
it's insane how much like parents expect from their children.
You're 9 years old and you get like 5 hours of sleep a night. That's wow.
Yeah, on average, all of my students, they are in the morning. They come about 9:30 a.m. They leave about between 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. And then they always have probably 4 hours of extra stuff, whether it be sports or like piano lessons, more tutoring, and yeah, even at 5 years old, it's just hour after hour of more things that the parent wants them to do. So it's crazy. And I've been teaching. It's been about 3 months now, so it's been quite some time. And so I've gotten a little experience with the parents here. And it's either they want their kid to learn more at a faster pace at the same time, they want their kid to have so much fun and love school. And like you can't do both as a teacher. Like it's just not gonna happen. And I don't think the parents realize like there's just not a balance there if you want your kid to know everything in like a quick amount of time and then just have so much fun at school. Like it's just not gonna happen, and like that expectation is just not here.
Yeah, definitely. No, and like I feel like there's a strong stereotype, I feel like, in America too about like Asian education, but there's a very large portion of that is based on truth, because literally coming here and seeing this, the way that they're pressured to memorize and all this stuff is like literally like my school, we have a no Korean policy, so like they can't even use their first language to ask for help, or they can't translate things. Like it's stressful. Like I'm stressed for them, and my job is just to teach them, so it's like they literally have to communicate in only English and somehow figure out what these words mean that they're being forced to memorize. So it's very, like, I can't imagine how stressful it is for them. And she was talking about the parents are insanely tough on their kids because they pay
teachers.
Yeah, for sure. They pay a lot of money. So like it is based on that, I feel like they pay a lot of money for their kids to get English educated, but they expect fluency in like the next day. Like they're very much like, oh, my kid's still learning phonics at 5 years old? What? Like they can't speak sentences? That's
they can't read this book that you sent home?
Yeah,
I'm like, we're learning the alphabet right now. Like, you can't read the book.
Right, like you have to set out a good foundation, and people do not understand that, and it makes sense if they're not like trained in that. But
parents really want their kid to have this like special like privilege too. A lot of times, like I've gotten a lot of calls. My co-teacher takes the calls, and she'll tell me that the parents are requesting that I like put more of my attention on a certain kid, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Like I like pay attention to them equally. I can't like focus more on one kid just because they didn't really want to go to school that morning. So it's a lot of little things like that too that are quite different over here.
Oh yeah. I was, so at SVSU, I was president of the Korean Culture Club for a time, because I was like really into, culture and everything when I came here to study as well. But literally one of the very strong parts of Korean culture is something called saving face. I feel like we do it to an extent in America too, but face is very important in Korea to the point where like they won't admit that if they like make a mistake, they want to look good in front of other Koreans, in front of other like superiors. Like literally Korean language too, there's two types. There's panmae, which is casual speech with like your friends, and then there's 존댓말, which is like honorific, that you have to literally speak up to somebody whose like their title is above you. So that being said, in the classroom too, the parent wants their student to look the best no matter what that takes. So we literally, in my school, we had a situation, and I'm sure it's not the only one, like it's definitely not in isolation, where the mom does the kids' work. Like this child does not know English a single bit, because she goes home and her mom writes her homework for her so that the foreign teacher will think, oh my god, this like child genius, or like whatever. And it's like, why? Like that doesn't benefit your kid at all. Like you're paying all this money to do her homework, then why don't you just buy the book, right, and do it? Like it's literally about saving face. They want their child to look the best in your eyes so that you pay more attention to them. And exactly like what Tessa was saying too, like people, like in the past, Koreans have been known to, I don't think it happens very much anymore, but there have been a lot of cases of like parents bribing teachers to like pay more attention to their kid. Tessa can explain more about this, but there have been situations of maybe tutoring after hours.
I mean, that's happened. Yeah, no, it kind of goes kind of hand in hand with the insane like work culture is my contract with teaching is like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like I always go in early because I have to prep stuff for that day, but set time is 9 to 6 p.m. And somehow me and another teacher got roped in to tutoring another hour for one of our students in the school. And it's just, they just try to get you to do a lot more than really is like you really should. So
it's definitely based on like favors and like
they always say, can you do me a favor? And they just want you to help them do work. And it's always definitely that.
Korea's great, the culture's great. I don't want like anyone to think like watching this that we're just like trashing everything, but like we want to give a really real view, I feel like, of what it's like working during a pandemic.
And I think
Korea.
more of what we focus on is like what is different. Like a lot of things are very similar and very good, and I do love living here, but especially the work culture and education is very, very different. So I think that's the main focus there, but definitely do recommend coming here.
We're like, please come to Korea. Yes. Okay, so we will talk a little bit more in the next video about how you can do that if you are interested in coming abroad. So yeah.
Okay, now to wrap this up, we kind of wanted to give you some of our favorite things about Korea and what we love about it. And then also, if you are interested, kind of a little step-by-step, short little guide on how you should go about doing it. So to start, my favorite thing about Korea is just getting the chance to experience an entire different culture. I did a couple trips through SVSU Study Abroad over the past couple years, just experiencing different cultures. For 2 months, I lived in Italy, and then I did almost full 2-week trip over to Prague, and that's kind of where like my passion for traveling started. And so coming to Korea, just every day, just seeing something different, seeing something new, it's just an adventure that is like something you'll never forget. So even if you haven't really traveled much, I recommend even just doing like a week study abroad trip, or just traveling even on your own and just experiencing it and seeing if this may be something that you'd like to do. There's definitely a lot of opportunities out there.
For sure. I also studied abroad. So I went to Daegu University for a year through SVSU program. So I definitely 110% back the SVSU study abroad program. Like, it's the best. So definitely do that. And I guess that's why I wanted to come back to Korea specifically. So I also love traveling, but like my passion was like the Korean language. I taught it for a little bit at SVSU, so I really think that's probably my favorite part of just like coming back to be able to speak it. But another really big positive for me about just being in Korea is people are so kind.
They really are.
Like, if you say hello in Korean, like if you just say hello, they will say, oh, your Korean's so good, and you'll be like, that's all I know though. Like, wait, you didn't hear
And then
me?
they try to speak to you in like full sentences, and I'm like, yeah,
You just
I
got
got this.
Yeah, they're just so excited, like, because it's so small and it's such a small country and so homogenous. They're just so like baffled or like amused, I guess, by like the fact that you would have any interest in them, which is like sad, but it's also like really sweet. Because
they always ask like, why are you here?
yeah, why did you come here? What's your, like, they want to know your story for the most part, which is really nice as well, because like being like, it's so insane. Like, I'm sure you guys are wondering, like, did you guys go together?
This at all.
I just thought of that. Like, people are gonna think like
This is our first time meeting. Actually,
we're crazy. Literally, like, we both went to SVSU, but we have a mutual friend who was like, hey, you two idiots are in the same town in another country, like, meet please. And we were like, oh my god, that's crazy.
yeah.
So
Especially with how small SVSU is, like,
and Korea,
shocking.
like, small world. So the fact that like we're alone in, like, there's not many Americans in Korea, I guess, like, besides military people. So like, especially Daegu, like she said before, there's not many foreigners here. So just that kindness, that like
They
willingness to
make
help.
you feel like very welcome.
So I guess that would be my positives. And how can you do this
Yes.
too? The recruitment process.
Because we definitely recommend doing it.
Yes, it's a doozy, but it's very
You get through
easy.
it.
Like it's really easy to apply for a job. Honestly, the stressful part, especially with the pandemic, I feel like, is the waiting. The visa process, like documents and everything, getting that together is probably the longest part. But literally, all of that would be after you already did your interview and after you
already accepted,
got a job.
Yeah.
So, we'll tell you a little bit about how you can apply.
So the very first thing that you need to do is research. Please research. I did not, and you see my working hours. So yes, please research, especially the age group that you want. Like, do you want 5-6-year-old beginning English speakers? Do you want upper elementary? Do you want high school? Do you want college? I think that's a pretty big thing that you need to be kind of set on, because that's a big difference. Yes. So know that, and then know the country that you want to go to. So those are two big things.
And also, literally, it's a quick Google search, and so many results will come up. But we have to warn you. This is the big SOS red flag thing. Is there are a lot of with any job, I feel like if you're applying from another country, there are a lot of possible scam things and false job advertisements, and then you apply and you maybe even come here and find out
It's not a thing.
it's not real. So definitely after you find a job, type that job name into Google, see if anything
for
weird
that
comes
is apply through a recruiter rather than directly to the school in the other country, because the recruiters will help you find a location, they'll help you talk to the school, they'll take you step by step through the application process. So find a recruiter over a direct school.
Yes. My recruiter too was amazing. I went through Premier Recruiting, and they talked to Tara Joy. She literally emailed me every week and was like, hey, where are you at in the process? That's her job, but she was going over above and beyond, because they know the recruiters deal with this all the time. They know you're stressed, they know you're trying to get documents together, and they're trying their best to help you out. So
and I went through the recruiter Eclipse, and they focus mainly in South Korea, Japan, and Vietnam locations.
That's awesome. I mean, the application process was pretty good, and then I had my interview over Skype.
I had a phone call interview,
and it was literally
just one interview, and then they accept you.
I was just gonna ask you.
Totally accept you. And me, I have zero teaching experience. I don't have a degree in teaching. I have nothing. All I had was a bachelor degree. That's all I had. So
for my job, we had the Skype interview, and I got accepted the next morning, which would have been nighttime.
There's a high demand for teachers,
especially during the pandemic, because they all went home, or most of them, so they're accepting a lot of new, I feel people. But same with me. My degree's not in teaching, so do not be discouraged if you don't have a degree in
or no experience. You figure it out. You do. You figure it out. You figure it out. And then also be careful, depending on the country that you'd want to teach in. Some countries require you to have a TEFL, a teaching English certificate, and so you would have to do an 120 hour, they have online courses for them. But South Korea did not, but I know a lot of other countries do require it.
It depends too on where you apply, because I know for mine, before they accepted me, they asked me are you currently in your teaching English as a foreign language class, and I was taking it. They asked me oh, when is your expected finish date? I was by the end of August, and then they're okay. So I feel some places in Korea are gonna require you to have that, but definitely bachelor's degree is
you definitely just need your bachelor's degree, and you can go from there.
So definitely come to Korea. It's an amazing place.
Yes, and if you want more information, you want want to reach out, just reach out to the study abroad office and they will get you in contact with us, and I would be more than happy to answer some questions or offer some advice.
Yeah, literally, there's the time difference as well, so like give us time to like answer you back.
Yeah,
but
across
we
the world.
definitely want people to also come here because it's such a great place.
Yeah, as much as there are difficulties and differences, no, it's
part
an
of the fun.
amazing opportunity. Yeah, we will never forget this.
So if you want to have an unforgettable adventure, come abroad.
Bye.
Bye guys. Thanks for listening.